Good evening, good evening, family. How are you all today? Happy Black Love Thursday. Happy Black Love Thursday. We're going to try to go through this kind of rapidly, but in the process, we ask that you take the time to share and invite, not for the purpose of vanity, not for the purpose of viewership in a way of popularity, but is our firm belief that in our communities that we have intelligent, wise, precious jewels of knowledge within our people. And when we talk about particular subjects, the more we bring the wisdom and the knowledge base together, the more we have viable answers, solutions, or just guidance. It doesn't always have to be a problem, family. That's our point. But to come together in beautiful dialogue, I want to emphasize that, not monologue, and to begin to talk about things that can help us all grow individually and collectively and build bonds. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that will take place within our community. And we all can bear witness that we need unity. We need to come together. So share and invite. Share and invite, please, so that we can add more to the conversation. While you all are sharing and inviting, I want you to wrap their mind around the topic. The topic is the real Black history that they don't want our youth to know about because it may inspire them to be great. So, the real Black history, we're going to talk about that. And while we're talking about it, we invite you all because we're going to talk about people who are influential that may have flown up under the radar or they swept up under the rug, or personally who have affected us. And we invite you all to do the same in the comment section because your comments, your questions are not only wanted, but they're valued. So happy Black Love Thursdays. For those who may be new to I want to emphasize that word. our program is just as much as yours as it is ours. So when you tell people come watch Black Love Thursday, don't talk about who you gonna see on the screen. Tell them it's your show. Invite them to your show. It's our program. For those who may be new to our program, Black Love Thursday is a day dedicated for us to uplift one to the other, where the kings take the time to post, say uplifting things about our queens, and our queens take the time to do the same as it relates to the kings. Um, I want to say to a few people that are signing on, welcome. You're really going to enjoy tonight's program, I believe, because the people that are invited on right now that you see have a wealth of knowledge and they have some experience that they would like to share with you that may educate all of us in the way that we should be loving each other by edifying those who have been influential in our lives. So, welcome, many of the followers that's coming on to our program. Lakeisha Muhammad, she's one of the program. My queen, Rashida Shabazz. My cousin, Rashawn Floyd. My brother, Ladar Jones. Queen Justice Brown. That's Jessica for y'all. If y'all don't, she didn't change up her name, but that's Jessica, y'all. And Kiara Simmons, our Queen B. And when I say B, not the B that they using in this filth. Queen Beverly Jones, who's been reading and who's been inspiring our people for literacy and just a host of beautiful other people that I'm not seeing just of yet. However, the reason why this is so important to Black Love Thursday is because we have been programmed to see the worst in one another, male to the female, so that we commonly use the language, she ain't this, and he ain't this. And when we do say that we are something, we are the worst thing. He's a N word and she's the B word. And we don't see the value in one another. And it's been programmed. So when we want to deprogram ourselves to seeing the worst in each other and see the best in one another. With that being said, if there was happened to be a White Love Wednesday, we probably would tune in and watch that. If it's a Mexican Love Monday, hola, we might tune in and watch that. However, this is Black Love Thursday, so everybody, I ask that you not only watch it, but you bring your children and the youth into this particular program tonight, because some of the things that you'll find out that they're trying to erase in the history of our history in the school system is dumbfounding. It's profound. It's like, wow. And they give you courtesy overviews of certain people that they want to uplift, but does not present them in the light of strength, just accommodating, for lack of better word. So with that being said, I'm going to digress so we can get on to the show. Our brother Amar, all the way down in Florida, he's going to follow me now, and then he's going to pass the mic to our brother Ra, who's the inspiration behind tonight's particular program. And after that, we will be free falling as far as the actual contents and the text of the program. Brother Amar.
Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Black Love Thursday. As you all know, we are unapologetically about our people. And we have a total of 2 programs during the weekday that are sponsored by the Black Love Family page. We have Brother to Brother Talk on Tuesday. And also we have, of course, Black Love Thursday. All the programs go at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Also for El Kebalam Unity Alliance, which I am the founder of, and my queen, Amani Mar, is the co-founder of, we have a program on Mondays entitled Wealth Building Strategies. All right, on Mondays. Of course, the title speaks for itself. We're about bringing financial literacy to our community to empower our people in the arena of their finances. I will always say this. You cannot fight capitalism without capital. You cannot play in a monopoly without money. So it is imperative that we have the resources that we need. We do have to pay teachers. We do have to pay police officers. I'm a realist. We could talk about moving and starting our own nation all we want to. You cannot do that without money. You don't just need knowledge of self. You also need wealth. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic to my good brother, Brother Rod, is in the building. Stand by. You in for a treat. Our brother going to fire it up. Also, before we begin, we want to request permission for us to speak from our elder, which is Baba Clay. Baba Clay, do we have permission to speak?
I'm still muted.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Yes, permission to speak.
I say, thank you, Baba. Brother Rod, it's yours, my brother.
Hotep, Baba Clay, thank you for permission to speak. Family, I'm But let me reintroduce myself before I go to speak, because sometimes, I get lost in the train of thought when I'm speaking, because I'm so passionate about what we're about to talk about. Uh, I go by Brother Ra, and the reason why I coined myself Brother Ra is because Ra, if anybody know anything about Egypt, is the sun, it's the life giver, it's to give light. And I feel like in my position in our community, I can bring light to certain situations. I just play my part. That doesn't mean that I'm any more important than anybody else, but I just know how to play my role, and I know how to follow when I need to follow. And I also in a position when I'm called up to be a leader, I can also be a leader. So that's why when amongst my people, I love for them to call me Ra or their brother, because I'm both. So with that being said, the topic, we're talking about the school system. And I'm not talking about the whole school system as a whole. I'm talking about just one specific part of the school system that I think that is the most important part of it all, because that's the part we sleep on. And that's the college school system. That's the universities, that's the technical colleges, that's the community college, that's any collegiate level after high school. That's what I'm talking about today. And that's why I started my college experience on the Black Love Family page, because I have heard my elders for years talk about how they trying to erase us out of history. And, I was so caught up in trying to find the information for myself that I kind of took that message for granted. And I know if I'm a diehard history buff, I'm a diehard love my people guy, I know if I took it for granted, I know the other people took it for granted. Not saying all, but I know some of us. So I think just like anything else, we need to revamp this message and bring awareness to what they're doing here. This ain't nothing that I heard. This ain't nothing that I heard an elder say or speak on. This is something that I'm experiencing in college. I enrolled in college for going on about 2 years now. And man, I'm telling you, those people don't talk about us when it comes to science, when it comes to math, when it comes to engineering, when it comes to architect, when it comes to the social sciences, that's politically, sociology, and psychology. They don't talk about us at all. When they do talk about us, they talk about Martin Luther King, but they put him in a way where he just is damn soft. Or when they talk about Malcolm X, they talk about, they show the passionate side of him, and they try to dress him up as being angry. Those are pretty much, that's all they talk about. So I'm sitting in the class, and I can admit, most of the classes that I got, most of them are black students in there. So you got a bunch of black students with this white professor, and every time he or she open their mouth, they demand that the students say doctor this or professor that. You know why? Because it gives them a rank of superiority over them, that they have went and pertained the knowledge. So you give me my respect, and when I'm telling you, you don't question. So if you got somebody like that, and here it is, you 18, 19 years old, you done left the bosom of your home, and you thinking that these teachers got your well-being in mind, you absolutely false. They're brainwashing our children to think that African people who look like me and you, I'm not even going to say African, because when I say African, it causes a lot of controversy, because people feel like I'm not African. Okay, I get it. I'm not even going to mention African people. I'm just going to say people who look like us, who have melanin in your skin. To them, we haven't did absolutely nothing for the world, for society, for this country, for anything. They don't mention us at all. And I done took every freaking course it is when it comes to knowledge and wisdom. Philosophy that I'm taking is about a love for wisdom. That's all philosophy means. And it's not a brother, it's not a person with melanin skin in this damn book up to the point where they're talking about Martin Luther King. They spend more time on Gandhi than Martin Luther King. I have recordings that I record for the when I'm in class, because I go back and I listen to this shit, and I have to say it like that because it's bullshit to me. So I'm gonna call it what it is. He said that Gandhi said that, you know, if we tried nonviolence, then it would have worked. So I said, what I question about Gandhi is his take on history. Could Gandhi even read? Because if he could read, he will understand that the people in this country who look like me tried nonviolence for over 400 years, and if we didn't stand up, we'd still probably be in bondage to this day. So we're going to have to get involved in what's going on in the education system with our children if we're going to send them there, because they got us tricked saying that if we send our kids to this school, they're going to get the best education. All these racist ass damn schools. And I'm right here in North Carolina, and I said Duke is one of the most racist ass schools in the USC system. North Carolina is a racist school. That's why they got all black basketball players. And that's all you see. Duke, all black basketball players, pretty much. So I'm gonna pass it, and I'm gonna give it back to Brother Amar, because you know, I don't want to hog the time, and I'm interested to see what the rest of my colleagues, the rest of my philosophers have to say, because this is what we are. We're modern day philosophers, and we need to act as such and wear the ego of a philosopher, because we need guidance. Our children need guidance.
Go ahead, work it out, brother. You got it. We haven't heard from you in a while on here. Go ahead and work it out.
Yeah, man, because it's just we're so humble to each other that we don't want to express our knowledge to each other, because for one, what we do, they label us as a know-it-all. Well, hell, that's what a philosopher is. He's diverse in wisdom. He's supposed, or she's supposed, to know a little bit of everything, because you earned that. You're not no philosopher at 15 and 20. When you start reaching up in the middle age, you start acquiring that type of thing. So somebody come and ask you, anybody who's evolving, they supposed to know this type of stuff. And now they have us ashamed. They have us ashamed to even express ourselves on different topics, because you know what we say first? Well, I ain't gonna say nothing because people think I'm a know-it-all. You're supposed to know that. They got us ashamed to do that. So that's why you don't have the great philosophers on this page. We don't give a damn. But it's a whole lot of us walking around who's saying, you know what? I'm not going to say anything because people think I know every damn thing. You supposed to, brother and sister. You supposed to be as diverse as you are, because your history is precedes any other group of people on the planet. So why wouldn't you know that? What's in your DNA has been here triple times, or even if that's a damn number. But my point is, it's been here forever, since the world been here. So certain things resonate in you that others can't comprehend. But you know who they give your credit to? They give it to the Asian man. That's who they give it to. And when they talk about him, they talk about him very vaguely, but they give him more respect when it comes to knowledge than they do the African man. Imhotep was one of the great philosophers, great scientists, great engineer, great anything that this world has to contribute when it comes to advancing a people. Imhotep did that. You know who they give it to? They give it to Aristotle. They give it to David Hume. They give it to Thomas Hobbes. They give it to all these guys who don't have any type of melanin in their skin. I guess they feel like the Greek philosophers just came up with this knowledge, but they're not telling you that they invaded a group of people who look like us and got that knowledge. It don't matter what geographic place they went to. I want to tell you that the group of people they got it from look like us, and they not giving us our credit. And I want the credit. The credit means a lot to me. It means a lot to me because it means a lot to them to take it from us. So that's how important the information is, because they don't want you to know. They don't want your sons and daughters to know that you was a great people. They want our history to start with slavery. And hell, even the people who did something great in this country right here, they don't even want you to know that. They want to talk about a few. And then when they talk about us, they want to talk about us in a way that we were just this man who was just so soft. They got Martin Luther King stuck in a damn time zone. Martin Luther King was about that life, whether people know it or not. He was about that life. No, he did a different approach that I didn't agree with, but the man spoke his mind. You know, so I'm gonna pass it, and thank you, Amar, for letting me get it out, because when I'm with the great philosopher of this day, I feel like that I need to step up my knowledge. You challenge me. That's what we supposed to do. We supposed to take the work that our forefathers and our mothers did and make it better. Don't get mad that I don't feel some type of way because I disagree with them. It's all about love. It's all about enhancing us as a people. It's all about challenging each other. And the more we don't challenge each other, the less we fucking learn. The less we learn. So you're supposed to push each other. Because I get sick and tired of going to school every damn day and I'm hearing about some white man who civilized the fucking world, and then I'm sitting in there and I'm battling with this teacher because my ego, and yes, I got an ego when you talk about my people and what we haven't done. And then I got an elder, and I'm gonna say one more thing and I'm gonna pass the mic. I'm in there with an elder at this conference, and this elder gonna tell me that her nephews never experienced racism. So we're not talking about just the young that's brainwashed. It's some of the elders that's even brainwashed, and that's how they infiltrating us, because they teaching that shit to the elders and they digesting it. And some of us don't even know that we're poisoning our own children with this nonsense about black people haven't did anything for society. So I'm gonna pass it, brother Amar, Michael, Tyra, Keisha, Baba Clay. Thank y'all for being patient with me and letting me express myself for this period.
No problem. No problem, my brother. And I want to pass it on to some of the female energy, either Sister Lakeisha or Sister Tara. And I want us to be able now to go into the program for us to highlight some of the people that have influenced you personally by way of reading about them, made you change your life or look at things differently. And if you know them personally or not. But some of the things that our children and our youth are missing at the collegiate level and even possibly at the high school level. Sister Keisha, can you go ahead and give us some of that wisdom?
Okay, can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay. All right. For your first question, who inspired me? My dad. My dad. And one thing I want to say too about our history, we have to take the responsibility out of white people's hands to teach our children our history. That should start at home. And I say that because as I've told you all before, my dad grew up in the South. You know, my dad picked cotton. My dad's 76 years old. He taught himself to read and write, literally. And so it was something that was a must do in our home. My dad was pushing books at 12, 13. The first book I ever read on Black history was Chancellor Williams's Destruction of Black Civilizations. I was 12 years old. It was a thick book, had words, but that was something that he instilled in me, was to read. And proceeding from, after that, it was just, like a firestorm. But in reading that book, one of the first women, we want to give credit to women, and here's the first woman I read about was Queen Nzinga, who defeated the Portuguese, was the head of an army. And I remember in this book, there was a picture of her in front of one of the Portuguese rulers, and they refused to give her a seat because, one, she was a woman, two, she was Black. So then one of her soldiers knelt down on his all fours and provided a seat for her. And when I saw that, that was the first time I had really seen a picture of a Black woman in authority, ruler, king, queen, that kind of thing. Because of course, on TV you saw Elizabeth Taylor and those people. But after seeing that, like I said, it just inspired me to want to learn more. And like I said, it is just something my dad just constantly pushed on us to be able to read and to take what we read and to put our thoughts down on paper. So he was big on reading, he was big on writing, and so from there, you read Ivan Van Sertima, you read Dr. Ben, you read, Shahrazad Ali's books, Are You Still a Slave? You read all of those. Those were pushed on me. And then, of course, when I turned 18, you come into the, Nation of Islam, and so all those books follow. But yeah, it's something we have to do. For us to put that in the hands of our open enemy it shows a lack of responsibility on our part. So we as a community have to teach our own history, but depending on them to do it, that's our responsibility. I'm gonna let Sister Tara speak on what inspired her, but that's where mine came from.
Okay, for me, it would be my mom. My mom, her name was Maisie Higginbotham, and she was a teacher, and she chose teaching on the west side of Chicago. So she chose an area that really needed help. And so she taught English, and what I loved about her most is that she inspired other kids. She took them to plays. She took them to Broadway productions. She took them to see Othello, Timbuktu, The Wiz. So not just your traditional play, but her goal was just to educate them. And she got a certification in special needs at a time when that wasn't really something that you were seeing. And she taught her kids to write books, to publish their own information. And I had one of her students to write me on Facebook, and because he recognized my name, and to tell me that she taught him to be a man. She would talk to her students. She would sit down with them, and she would, have real conversations with them. So she would be the first person, and she didn't have to get me. I always had a love for reading. So she never had to tell me to read. I just love reading. I was taught to read at the age of 4. I went to a school called Potential, and I'll talk to you all about Miss Fogarty on another day, but she started a school that was for exceptional kids, and I just loved to read at an early age. So for me, it just came natural. The first book that I read that was of any thick substance was Maya Angelou, I Know Why Caged Birds Sing. There was a store by me owned by the Norfleet brothers. I don't know if anyone is familiar with them, but they were having a garage sale. And I told my mom I went to a garage sale. And she was like, you went to a garage sale? And that's the only thing that I bought was that book. And I read that book, and I finished it in a couple of days. And Maya Angelou just touched me, in my heart. And I've read every book that she's written, and I have every copy. And the next person would be a good friend of mine in Florida, and her name is Cynthia Moore Chestnut. And she was part of the House of Representatives for the state of Florida in the 90s, which was a time where it was not easy for a Black woman to be part. And Florida is not the most friendly state, as you guys know, with that type of thing. And so I was very proud of her, and I was proud to call her a friend. She and I started a book club together when I lived in Florida. But she went to FAMU, and then she got a doctorate at Nova. And she was the director of one of the healthcare centers that I worked at. And it was in an area that was a predominantly Black area. So she served the community. And one of the things, I shadowed her one day. And one of the things I liked about her was that she had someone to go through the newspaper, and they would look to see who passed, and she would write a personal card of greetings to Blacks that were in the area. And the other thing that I remembered is we had a private club in Florida, and I couldn't get in except I knew people in my department that had a membership, and we would take people that were visiting. And I remember her picture being on the wall, and it was only two Black women's picture that was on the wall, and that stood out. And one of them was hers because she was on the board there, and that was a club that was not probably welcoming at one time of Blacks. And those are the ones that I'm going to talk about for now. But I do think it is our responsibility. I started my daughter with flashcards, where that was just part of her daily routine of learning about different. And I think that Black history, those are the cards. It starts at home. It starts with us. I don't think we could give that responsibility to the schools. I remember when my daughter was in high school, she told me that they were going to have school on Martin Luther King holiday. I didn't really believe her. You know, my daughter never gave me any problems, but I just didn't believe that. So I called the school and I asked them, you know, what was going on, because, you know, I heard that they were going to have school on Martin Luther King holiday. And they let me know, no, this is because of the strike. We're also going to have school on President's Day. And I watched for those other holidays to make sure that there was school. And she said, but you could trust that next year it will be recognized. And I did. I made that effort to reach out to let the school system know that I was not happy, you know, that there was going to be school on that day. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Queen Tara. And I'm asking our audience, our community, to please don't hesitate to put in the comment sections Black people who have absolutely influenced you, or that you think that has been erased from history. And it doesn't have to be from this continent. If you know about African queens and kings that you want us to know more about, and give us something to look for as far as building and gaining knowledge and building up our wherewithal, so that we as a community, we can start creating our own curriculum within our own community. And I want us to be just as we are passionate about what's going on, I want us to be passionate about this knowledge and what we have done and what have influenced us, so that our children can be allured to this. Because if we make it fun, we make it interesting to them, it will sink into their mind more readily. So Brother Baba Clay, you got the mic next, brother. I know that you do thorough research on our African history studies, both at home and abroad. So go ahead, Brother Baba Clay.
Greetings, fam. Thank you all for this opportunity to be on with you all, man. It is always awesome, and it's a great time to have an expression. What I want to, before I go into what I'm going to say, I want to bring forth some information from some brothers that did some real good research called Pyramid Builders, Inc. Behavior Definitions for Post-Trauma in the African Experience. Here's what they had to say. They said, our goal is not to re-traumatize Black people. Our goal is to untraumatize. That is, the goal of post-traumatic slave disorder is to undo the effects of 383 years of madness that the Black people have been subject to. And they go on to say, we are aware that the descendants of the African Holocaust do not like to be reminded of the horrors of their history. And that's very important, because we don't like to be reminded of what has happened. You hear people, well, we can get over that, we all get along. But they're making a specific point, and they go on to say, any trauma victim does not like to be reminded of the trauma that he or she has experienced. Any trauma victim has a tendency to avoid anything that reminds him or her of that trauma. And this is what we are experiencing right now, because we've had so many traumatic experiences, and understanding that trauma doesn't have to be experienced by the primary individual. It can be experienced by an incident that you happen to be looking on, or an incident that has been passed on down the family line. So what they're saying is that we don't like to be reminded of this. And they go on to say, as Black people, we appear to be very close to losing our collective spiritual and identity, and thereby our collective mind, soul, and will to the definition of anyone who wants to interpret us. So, and what we're doing is we're countering that. We're coming to interpret ourselves tonight. We're coming to give our identity tonight. And for me, the primary influences that were in my life is my father and my mother, because my father allowed my mother to indoctrinate us, to submerge us into that Blackness. Again, like I shared with you all, we were in Memphis, Tennessee in the time of the sanitation workers movement, when Dr. King was there, Jesse Jackson was there, and a number of other personalities was there. We were there, and my parents were connected. For example, we were with Carlos Thomas and Rufus Thomas there. My mother was their seamstress. She sewed for them. My mother in Memphis, she had the first sequence dress that was featured on TV. My mother made that for Carlos Thomas. And I'm not for sure if you all know who she is, but if you research her, you know who she is, and you know who her father is, Rufus Thomas. They were a who's who. We were in their homes. We were with them. So we were out there marching with them. So there was a level of influence that were upon us when we were children, when we were in Memphis, Tennessee. So my mother was like she was a at-home teacher. She taught us at home. See, back then, you didn't just go to school and learn. You came home and your parents taught you, and they made sure that you got your lesson. They made sure that you did what you were supposed to do so that you could advance. And that's one of the things that we've gotten away from. We've gotten away from challenging our children to really be the best of who they. Excuse me. It's okay for us to have to homeschool our children and to teach our children. So my mother homeschooled us. She taught us, and not only that, but she indoctrinated us with that Black thing. So, but it took more in me than it did my siblings. I have 3 other siblings, but it took more in me. It encapsulated me. It enthralled me. It made me see things in a different light, and it made me want to be a leader. It made me want to be someone that was important to his people. And as a small boy, I understood that. And the avenue that I took, I came through the church, because primarily at that time, that was what was being projected. It was a church. So a lot of us come through that because that it was predominant, because when you look at it, of course, we know we had our brother, peace be upon him, our brother Malik El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, aka Malcolm X. We know that brother was stomping the grounds. He was hard at it. We know that, of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was doing his thing. But we know then, but Dr. King, they had given him the stage. They had given him the ability to project. And through that projection, they didn't know what was going to come through that. They didn't know that he was going to be able to galvanize and bring the people to that realm and to that level and have the ability to do that. So that was one of the things that brought us to the forefront, my family, my parents, to the forefront, to bring us out and allow us to be inducted into that. And so for me, that was my experience that got me into that thing, and it never left me. It made an indelible impression upon me. And as a result of that, I'm sitting here today fighting for my people, fighting for the cause, because as a child, it was instilled in me. It was placed in me. It was imprinted and impressed upon me. And that's very important for us to understand. And so for me, and then as we move on, and I'm gonna give it up, and as we move on, and I move into my Black uh, um, experiences and impressed. But what happened for me, you all, that really solidified and consolidated for me who we are as a people. I went to school. I went back to school, back to college. And I met a white professor from Georgia. Never will forget him, and peace be upon him. Name was Dr. Robert Haney. I never will forget him, family. He has transitioned, so I can tell a story. It's my story to tell now. But what happened was we met. I met him in one of his classes. I was taking a class, as Brother Rob was. I was taking a class, and in that class, I demonstrated so well, he was trying to figure out who I was. And so he and I, we met after the class, and we start talking. And as we start talking, he started revealing things to me. And he said to me, he said, listen, he said, whenever the black man realizes who he really is, he will be able to take over again and rule. He says the black man does not understand who he is, and he has not jump-started his mind. He has not jump-started his thought processes. He said the problem is that he hasn't not jump-started his thought processes. And he went on to tell me this, and I'm going to turn it over. He went on to tell me this. He said, listen, he said, I came back from Africa because he used to do tours in Africa. He used to sleep at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro. Every year he did a Hajj. And he said he came back from Africa one year, and he said to me, he said, I came back and the pastor had a picnic at his house. And he said, everybody sitting at the table, they were just talking and chopping it up. And he said, the pastor said out of his mouth, he said, Robert, our niggers are getting uppity. And he said, huh? It stunned him. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. So he told me that he left Georgia and never went back. And I can testify to that, family, because he showed me checks that he used to get from TNT, the guy that owned TNT, that used to support his school. So what ended up happening, he and we collaborated, and he degreed me up. He degreed me up with a PhD. He degreed me up, and I sat on his board of trustees at the college, had his own college. I mean, this thing was set up. It was set up, and what that did was it allowed me to begin to teach on a whole nother different level. And so now I understand what was done to us because he was filtering information to me, what they were doing to us. He was giving it to me, and as he was giving it to me, I was giving it to our people, and me and Brother Rob, we was trading books. We was putting books up. And when he did that, I understood who I was and what it was that I was supposed to be doing and the influence that I was supposed to be making. But when we start getting into our black leaders, man, I'm getting into Dr. Bobby Wright. I'm getting into Dr. Yasser Ben Yakanan. I'm getting into Dr. Henry Clark. I'm getting into Dr. Ashaka Musa Barashango. I'm getting into the whole host of Dr. Amos Wilson, prolific, Dr. Wade Nobles. When you start, you can just go out of Jomo Kenyatta, Thomas Sakata, Patrice Lumumba. When you start getting into all of these, they start, man, you can get that inspiration. It causes you to want to be involved. It causes you to be willing to, hey, whatever my plight is, whatever I have to lay down, whatever I have to sacrifice, I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to do my part. And this is what I'm saying to us. It's our turn now. It's time for us to do our part. Thank you, family.
For myself, there's numerous ones, but that was confirmation with Baba Clay, because that's exactly who I have. I have Thomas St. Karen, and he is the one who is the president of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso means the land of the upright people. Okay, yes. It was renamed in 1984 by Thomas St. Karen. He was the president from 1983 to 1987. He took over the country that was entitled by the French Upper Volta. They had established that it was colonized on December the 11th, 1958. He took it back. He became the president. He renamed it in 1984, and he was the president from 1983 to 1987. Unfortunately, he was assassinated on October the 15th, 1987. He was unfortunately assassinated at the age of 37. He was a revolutionary. He's a Pan-Africanist. You know, he's a theorist. All right. He did this, and this is the reason why I honor him so much. He vaccinated 2.5 million children against meningitis, yellow fever, and also in a matter of weeks he did this. He initiated a nationwide literacy campaign, of course, educating us about us, by us. Okay, he planted over 10 million trees to prevent desertification. All right, he built roads and railroads to be able to transport the food and the wealth and all those wonderful things like that, the medicines and everything, building up the road so they can start dealing with one another in the motherland. Also, you know, he didn't allow the people to be able to receive assistance from the foreigners, because he said those who feed you, they have control over you. I love that. Those who feed you, they have control over you. Now, this is another thing. Now, the queens, anybody who know me, they know I fight for the queens. So I got to put this in here because, you know, I'm big on putting our queens back on the throne. You know, for those who took them off the throne, they always been there. They took them off the throne of their mind. But nevertheless, though, one thing I love about him, he outlawed female genitalia mutilation, also forced marriages and polygamy in support of women's rights. I love that. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely love that. He also put women in high position in government when he took over. Now, one thing I love about this is we have to also understand that everything about our culture is not good. Okay. And some stuff, you know what I'm saying, wasn't brought by, you know, the European. It's some stuff that even predates the European. You understand? The ill treatment of the women. All right. That's something that we have to also understand. You know, I believe in talking about the good, but we also got to talk about the bad. Okay. And from the outside looking in, one may say that, oh, well, you know, you don't understand. No, I understand very well. I do not like when women are treated that way. And that's just the bottom line. You know what I'm saying? Women need to have a voice. We need to allow them to be in a position. Queen Azinga, she's a warrior. She's a warrior queen. So don't tell me that a woman can't fight. Okay? She's a lioness. So I believe that the woman should be in a position of power. Okay? A mother is in a position of power. Don't tell me a woman can't teach or she can't say nothing. What's she supposed to do? Wait till the father come home to say something? Then the child won't even respect the mother because, well, I got to talk to your daddy about everything. Nah, not this way. Not this way. No, that's not the way it works. You have to have balance. But nevertheless, he also redistributed land from the feudal landlords and gave it directly to the peasants. He opposed foreign aid. He called for unity from a unified front, rather, of African nations to repudiate their foreign debt. He argued the poor and also he argued for the poor. He said they were being exploited, and he said that they didn't have an obligation to repay money to the rich because they were being exploited. He would not tolerate that. So this is the reason why I champion our ancestor, peace and blessings be upon him, Thomas Sankara. He also recruited them in military position. So no, I know a lot of men in America because I'm a former Marine. They had a problem with women being in the military. But see, this is the reason why we have to study our history, because a lot of us would think only men did the fighting. But that's not true in all cases. All right. In some cases, the women fought too, because You know what I'm saying? Some of the wimpy men out there, nevertheless, some of our women got out there and they fought these wars too. All right. And that's all I have for right now. I do have one more, but I'll bring him back later. And I'll be touching on later, if we have time, Julius Nyerere.
Yes, sir, brother. And I say this to you, brother Amar, brother Ra, our sisters, Lakeisha and Tahara, and brother Baba Clay. You know, we normally go an hour, and I hope our people can bear with us for a little more time, because like the month that's given to us to express our history is shortened. I'm not going to shorten this piece. So if we go beyond that hour to be able to impart and share with one another, so be it, because it's at the detriment of our youth. And I'm asking all those that are grown, that I can hear the sound of my voice, invite your children, whether they be young adults to young teenagers to babies, to come in and just talk. And I'm trying to just pick up on some of this, some of these comments, and you all are commenting beautifully. So don't rush it. Explain who and what your person is, because they're not getting the school systems. And you're right. You're right. We should be teaching it at home, all of us collectively, but some of us don't know what to teach. And this is part of the podcast, is to bring up names so that we can go research that we may not be aware of. See, you can't beg for something from someone who don't want to do it. You begging the institutions that was not made for us to do something for us. That's like a slap in the face. Why come to our institutions? Guess what? The biggest institution is our homes. The biggest institution is our unity. So we come together and we say, guess what? We're going to teach this thing. They have every right to erase our history out of existence. Why? Because why would they give up their throne? Why would they give up their greatness? But we have the right to learn about our greatness. And with that being said, family, the person that I want to talk about and why I want to talk about is a person that is amongst us right now. Historically, we have been erasing our people ourselves, and we only lift them up after they're gone. Here's the funny, sad part about that. Where they're being lifted up by the people that opposed them while they were living. And now that the Caucasian validates them, now we go here openly and celebrate them. But as long as they opposed them, we hid. We didn't stand with them. It wasn't our right to celebrate them. I'll give you examples, and then I'll get to my person. Many of our people who champion Martin Luther King, like Brother Ross said, he was about it, but he had action behind it. So if he would have counted only on the black people for the civil rights movement, it would have been thin. The marches would have been thin. He had to incorporate other races. And so I understand that psychology, because we have been conditioned in this country to be scared to death Negroes, especially at the detriment of our freedom. So a lot of people who's championing his name now, who lived when he lived, didn't champion the man. They didn't. Let him go out and fight, and we'll see the results, and we'll join on. Then Mark Vesey, the same. Marcus Garvey, the same. All these great revolutionaries that we had amongst us, when our people had the opportunity to support them, they didn't. But upon their death, we lift their names up. But we don't lift their names up in activity, in the way of support of what their cause was, because we can tell how we interact and treat one another. So with that being said, the person that is the most influential in my life is a person that most black people run from. And they run from him because you have been taught about him by your open enemy. The same people that he's fighting for your very liberation and freedom, you take the credit or credibility of your open enemy. That man, to me personally, is the most honorable Louis Farrakhan. Why? That man puts his life on the line for us daily, whether you be Muslim, Christian, Hebrew Israelite, as long as you're black here in America and in the world, he puts his life down for you. But most people don't understand this. The wake-up call is for our people, but overall, his message is universal when properly understood. See? So I get frustrated when I hear our black people say things like this. Well, who do we have now? Well, we got somebody now. We got somebody who you become disrespectful for a man laying his life down for you to say, who do we have now? When he has not only went into government to fight for your behalf, countries to fight for your behalf, universal around the world to fight for the black man freedom on your behalf, and you say, who do we have now? Why? I don't want to attach myself to him. Why? Because my open enemy says he's an anti-Semite. Not true. But those who are Christians, guess what? They said the same thing about Jesus. See? He's a hater. And he's a separatist. Not true. They said the same thing about Jesus, because Jesus said, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins and her plagues. We in the modern Babylon. So personally, I have been in the minister's presence, and although I looked at him with admiration and honor, the man is so humble to make you feel good about yourself. Now that's a leader. I'm far from perfect. I'm so far from all that stuff. But for a man of that magnitude to make you feel like something in his presence, not that you should be serving him, but he's subservient to you as far as his life, is humbling. What you want to know about him? What can I say about him? Well, I can say this, family. There's a lot that the minister has done for us in totality, where he has went across the world and made friends for us across the world. And he does not go shucking and jiving. Let me give you a private example. The minister is so in love with the truth that he has been in countries, whereas he tells the countries the beauty of the country and boldly tell them where their shortcomings is. In particular, when our Muslim brothers are fighting against Muslim brothers. He has said it in their country, not across the land, over a radio, over a broadcast, but in their presence. That's absolute strength. The man has called out all these so-called people who say they believe in God. He has said it to this government. Thus said the Lord. Well, many can't say that. Why? Because you got faith-based initiated grants that you will be holding to your government. They take your money away, then you have no more flock. But this man, I'm my minister, can't call him my brother. even though he gave us the instruction that the best title that you can infer on somebody is brother. But the admiration and not worship of what he has done for us just this far. I'm not worthy for him to call him brother. He's teacher. I'm the student. Teach me more. What happens when Jesse Jackson, and I don't like to mention names, come to our brother and ask him to help him with his presidential campaign? And he does. And he goes on the line and put his life on the line for and Jesse made the error of making the Jaime comment. And they made Jesse apologize to him and at the same time make him try to denounce his brother, which he began to distance. See, there has been great men who have came to the minister in the hospital while they were in the hospital or falling short in some areas of their life, and he was there for them. And we personally watched the minister be there for them, and these same type of brothers come back, either distance themselves from our brother or as may even say something foul after they got their service rendered. And he still loves them. This is my admiration. He tells us to hold our tongue because we emotionally immature will say something foul to interrupt the path he's going and building community and unity amongst our people. He already knows that we're sick. We already know that we're so divided. Guess what now, Brother Ra? All these universities are now trying to denounce our brother and not let him come. Why? Because once he go, the children start to become awake. They start to research. They start to fall in love with themselves. And they start to go on the path of self-knowledge. So now they're threatening the university presidents or whomever they may bring them to these universities because they use the language, he's a hater, he's an anti-Semite. Let me clear this last part up, family. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has Jewish friends. And these are the people who practice Judaism for real. His biggest enemy in what they would say Jew is those who claim to be Jews and are not. Those who claim to be Jews who are pushing out this porn, pushing out this filthy music, capitalizing and raping our people. He speaks truth to power. He ain't talking about the brother who's devoted to Judaism and his way of devotion. He has friends in that area. He speaks to the power that be the Zionist that wants to manipulate the whole wide world. So I'm going to digress and say this because I want to pass the mic to Brother Ra because he is so passionate about what he's experiencing in school. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a flower in our midst that many of us are overlooking, and he's laying his life down for us daily. No matter what you claim to be, his fight is still for us as a people. And I admire that man, and I will constantly uplift that man, and I'll lay my life down for a man like that. It's not even that complicated. All this rah-rah and all this stuff. If a man will lay down his life for me, and it's proven that, man, it's naturally that we reciprocate that type of love. That's real love. Now we can say, am I my brother's keeper? Brother Ra, go ahead, brother.
Everybody had named somebody or a few people that they're expired in. And the beautiful thing about it, we haven't even scratched the surface of us because we're so ancient. Even the people that they named out is people that's before them and after them. So that's what's beautiful about it. That's why I love and so passionate about the history of people who look like us, is because no matter, we could stay on here for a whole year and we still wouldn't scratch the surface of the greatness that we brought to this planet. And it's funny that Mike bring up the minister Louis Farrakhan, because even today, they talking about the minister. And the minister was in my school today. And let me explain why he was in my school today. So we sitting in class, me being me, you know how I am. So a student asked me, how did I feel about, because we was on the subject of Brother Malcolm. He asked me, how did I feel? She asked me, how did I feel about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? There's about 30 students in there. We all mixed up. I said, I love him. They say, do you agree with everything he say? I said, hell, I don't agree with everything my wife say, and I've been with her 20 years. But that doesn't stop me from loving him. I said, who agrees with what everybody says? What that have to do with anything? The question, what you need to be asking me, and if I'm lying, I'll start recording it if I can. I said, the question you need to ask me is, why do I love this man so much? It's because all the examples Mike said. I told them that you don't choose my hero. I choose my own heroes. Your European standards don't resonate in me. So to make a long story short, I told them, fuck Thomas Jefferson. He's a rapist. He's not my hero, or any president that came before him. So or any white man that owned slaves who contradicted themselves. No, I'm not down with that. Have white people stood up for the cause of black people? Absolutely. Absolutely. I did a paper on Susan B. Anthony. She was who gave the women the right to vote. She was Frederick Douglass' homegirl. So absolutely, it was some white people who did good for us. Now, are they good? I don't know, because I don't know them personally, but they did some good for people who look like me. So the reason why I want everybody to talk about this, regardless of how they felt about it, is because I wanted to show people the diversity that we have even in 2019, that we even had back in, in the past, or back in ancient time. This is no different. The only thing different now is that we're in a different time zone. Even the technology that they called primitive back then is way advanced than what the technology that we have now is, just in a different light. And the same people who gave them the technology to advance their group of people, it came from us, and we need to start acknowledging that. I understand that I did a post today, and I was like, don't be ashamed to say you don't know about Black history. It's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with you not knowing, or you don't know where to start teaching your children. Because at one point in time, I didn't know. But what I did was I reached out to resources, and I humbled myself to start asking questions. Who is this? Where can I go? Took the time out and make sacrifices to read, because I don't want to hear nobody saying, oh, they talking too long on this program, but at the same time, you'll sit up for 2 hours and watch a movie about nothing. We don't sacrifice anything. Here it is in your midst. Not only the minister is great, all of us are great in our own sense. All of us have something to bring to the table. So if this program go on for 3 hours, which it probably won't, but the message is, stop wasting your time on anything that's not going to advance you as a human being. Not even as a person of melanin, but just as a basic human being, because our history is not just exclusive to us. Because you're not only going to teach your children, you're going to teach the world. And that's who's been fooled. Black people are not the only people who've been fooled. It's the world that's been fooled. And that's what we need to get to. We need to get to the point where we're absolutely telling the correct history. Not our history, the correct history on what we did and how we advanced. History dictates us as a people, and we absolutely need, and it's an urgency for us to take a stand. Yes, it's good to talk about the books. Yes, it's good for us to talk about the people who have advanced us, but we got to start teaching it. We got to start talking about it more often. We have to start making it like our lives depend on it. The best investment that you can ever make is in yourself. I understand that we need economics, but money and his food will sure pass. They'll separate. So we need to. It's a sense of urgency for us to learn about these people in our past, so we won't make the same mistake twice. And I'm gonna pass it, but I want to give another example. And I thought this was some jive when somebody told me. They said every time that Black people bring up history, like Brother Clay was saying about the traumatic things that we went through, it's always somebody in the background that'll say something about the Jewish people. Now, don't get it twisted. I studied it. You know, it was a horrible thing that happened to those group of people, but it's a blink of an eye of what happened to people who look like us. I'm not downplaying what went down with them. I'm not doing that, because all life is precious to me if you're trying to make humanity great. But you know, if you're a scum, then I don't give a damn about you. You don't need to be here because you're not doing anything to advance us as a people. But they're always bringing up their past. They're not going to let nobody forget what happened in Germany. They're not going to let nobody forget what Hitler did to the eastern part of the hemisphere and how he treated them. So we cannot forget. I don't give a damn how hard it is to read about it, because at the end of the day, they sugarcoat what happened to slavery. They're not talking about the instruments that they used on us. They're not talking about how they took our skin and made coats, or took our hair and used it to stuff their pillows, or how they even tasted the flesh and drunk the blood of Africans. They're not going to tell you that, because they feel like if you know that, then it might change you in the way of how you look at them. So, Brother Michael, the minister is in school. He goes to school with me every day. And anytime anybody asks me anything about the minister, he is somebody great to me. And like I told him, if he was walking this classroom right now, I lose my mind. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it. I love y'all, man. They're great. And I want to start using this language. And I want our children, the great philosophers of this day, right now, I am amongst greatness. And I appreciate everybody.
Sister Keisha?
What do you say after all of that? I'm just, looking at the comments, and actually I have to agree with Brother Ra. There are so many. I mean, I'm just looking at the comments. There are so many people. It's like the more the comments come up, the more they mention more. It's like, okay, we forgot about this one. Okay, what about this one? I mean, we have a beautiful and a rich history, and it's like he said, you can be on here for hours, but we have to take an earnest interest in our own history. And we have to realize too that our history starts way before we got here to this part of the world. And so unfortunately, a lot of us have been indoctrinated to not have an interest in African history, or or in it in Africa or its people, because we've been taught that we're separate. But like I said, we have to take, like I said, an earnest interest in that history. It is a part of us. It is us. I don't care what tribe, were you in Nigeria, Benin, as Brother mentioned, Burkina Faso, whatever, that is us. That is us. That is us. And until we realize that we're all connected, then we'll continue to let other people paint our history. Like I said, if you were to close your eyes right now and ask most people what they think about Africa, they're gonna, people running around and grass skirts and women naked and, babies with their bellies fat and flies flying all around. They never think of Africa having cities that look like New York or Chicago or anything like that, because once again, we continue to let other people color, how we see our people. We just came out of the Caribbean and it was like, man, the islands that we visited, I was talking to somebody about the trip, but I was just saying, when you think of St. Thomas, St. Kitts, Grenada or Dominican Republic, you think, because the commercials so white people. And so when you go there, you're like, shit, in Detroit, it's Chicago around here. And the people were friendly. And it was like, wow. But I mean, when they show exotic places, I don't care if it's in, Malaysia, or they show white people. So you don't even think that we're everywhere. So when somebody tells you it's not a place on the planet that the black man has not been, you don't believe it, because once again, everything we know is colored through, through their eyes. But we need to get out, we need to travel, and we need to take an earnest interest in that history. And it's out there. I mean, we got, and not used to have encyclopedias of information. Now it's all in your hand. You can Google, Wikipedia. I mean, you can learn a language. You do anything with that phone in your hand. YouTube has hundreds of thousands of videos. You can look up the Maroons. You can look up Queen of Sheba. You can look up whatever you want, and it's there. But we have to take an earnest interest in it and make our children have an interest in that history. I love Martin Luther King and, Malcolm X and the contemporaries, but there's so much more history and there's so much more depth to us than just the history over here. And once we understand that connection, then, like I said, we just have to understand that importance. We cannot continue to look at ourselves through Eurocentric thoughts and ideas. We cannot. And we cannot let our children continue to feed off of that Eurocentric ideas, thoughts of fashion, and they take everything from us. The white man, unfortunately, don't have an original thought that didn't come from us. There's nothing original about him at all. So instead of looking at him, look at yourself. You're the original of everything. It's not nothing he brought into this world, into existence, that we marvel at now, that wasn't the idea or taken or stolen from a black man or a black woman, black people, period. So, I mean, when you think about how great you are, then, like I said, we'll behave in a different manner. So that's my thoughts.
I want to talk to you guys about Sweet Expectations. I think about Sweet Expectations. I think about Michelle Hoskins. There are so many that, I mean, the list just goes on and on of Black Titans that we have that are here, that are no longer here. But Michelle Hoskins is someone that probably lives about less than 7 minutes from King Mike and his queen. And she is someone that started a business. She was going through a divorce. Times were hard. She was trying to figure out, she sold everything to start this business. She went from every obstacle that you could have to the integrity of her product, because her product is this. What I'm going to talk to you about is going to change the syrup that you buy in your house. So this is the syrup that she makes. It's in a small bottle, and it's called Michelle's Maple Cream Syrup. It's not the size that you typically get. It's 13 ounces. It's very rich, and she has a couple of different flavors. But she's someone that started in the 90s, and she has a multi-million-dollar company that is right here in Illinois, Michelle Foods. And she has, all different types of syrups, but that is her line of business. And we even might see her product because she's built relationships with all of the grocery stores. She personally built a relationship with Jewel when it was easy to build those types of relationships. So she has relationships with Kroger, Albertson, Walmart, Target, Publix, Safeway, Foods, and many others. She was the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2002, and college graduate students getting their MBA have asked to use her as their prototype to find out more about business. And so, Michelle, this is her book. It's called Sweet Expectations, and I definitely encourage you to get that. The other person I want to talk about is one of my personal favorite, John Johnson. John Johnson, Ebony Jet Magazine. I feel that we fail them. You know, when the magazine closed, there's absolutely no reason that a Black magazine should have had to close. Every person should have gotten a subscription to that magazine. I feel that we failed the family, you know, with that. You know, there was a time they started a makeup line in 1973 when Eunice noticed that the Black models had to do something different in order to create makeup. So they came out with Ebony Jet, with Fashion Fair makeup, with all the pink, you know, cosmetic cases. What do? As Blacks, we go to MAC. Now Fashion Fair isn't good enough for us. So we have to go to MAC and all the other products. And Linda had challenges financially in, you know, continuing to operate the business. So the business had to close. And as a result of that, the building was sold, and it's going to be condominiums soon. And John Johnson was an amazing man. He started the business with a $500 investment with a furniture loan that his mother took out collateral in order for him to secure that loan. In addition to that, he had to have someone that was white to purchase the mortgage, to secure the mortgage for him, because of course he could not secure the mortgage himself. And the bank that turned him down was what used to be First Chicago Bank. That's when I decided I wasn't going to do business with them at the time, when I found out that that was the bank that turned him down. But the building, coincidentally, was a building that he had to get special privilege from Mayor Daley because it had a private entrance. And in addition to that, that building was actually designed by a Black architect. And the Black architect is the father-in-law of Arthur Ashe. So that was John Warren Montesami. He's an architect, and he is the father of Jeannie, who was a photographer, Arthur Ashe's wife. So John Johnson, I encourage you to read this book. He is definitely someone that has been life-changing, as well as this book that talks about a lot of titans, of some of our Black titans, CEOs that have redefined history and business. So those are mine. But did you guys know, I'm just going to end with this. Did you guys know that Betty Boop was really Black? How many of you knew that? I knew you knew. Esther Jones was the real Betty Boop. She was the iconic cartoon character, as we know, and they traced the cartoonist Max Fletcher in the 30s. He captured this jazz flapper, and she was Betty Boop, as we see that is white, was really a Black woman. And the last person that I want to talk about is someone that is near to me, and her name is Nancy B. Jefferson. They used to call her like the Black Moses of the West Side of Chicago. And Nancy was known as a mover and a shaker for her community. And she worked for the city. She's started several committees and programs that people are still benefiting from. The fruit of her labor has still been seen. She is one of the first to have a street named after her while she was still living in Chicago. Nancy B. Jefferson Street. Harold Washington had that street named after her. And the fruit of her labor are her kids, who I'm friends with. Her daughter was the person that was the first woman to have the second highest position at the prison on California, and that was Linda Jefferson. And those are the ones that I wanted to talk to you all about tonight. Thank you so much.
Barbara Clay.
Yes. There was a quote that said about Black consciousness. And it goes as, Black consciousness is an attitude of the mind, in a way of life, the most positive call to emanate from the Black world for a long time. And I say that again because it's very important. Black consciousness is an attitude of the mind in a way of life, the most positive call to emanate from the Black world for a long time. I remember growing up as a small boy, watching my parents and watching the particular atmosphere at that particular time where that's when we were, the affirmation of Black love. It was the Afro thing. It was the Afro that kind of gave forth the air of you understood who you were conscious, and it was emanating from you. And this is the late 60s, early 70s, and this is just emanating from you. And as I think about it, and we fast forward and come into this particular time, what is it that we really adhere to that allows us to be who we are? One of the things that we've never been able to get away from was our hair. Never. It has always been a staple for us. We've never been able to get away from our hair because what we understood was that it separated us from every other ethnicity. I don't care where they come from. I don't care who they are. We are the only ethnicity that has hair. Every other ethnicity has fur. They don't have hair. They have fur. We are the only ones. And I'm also a barber by trade. I went to barber college. I understand what hair really is. Hair is a fiber-like substance having the ability to transmit light, heat, sound, wave. And if you think about what they did was they came up with what they call fiber optics. Fiber optics comes from our hair. Fiber optics cannot come from anyone else's hair because our hair is the only one that has the ability to transmit. These are actually antennas. Not only that, but it carries the ability to smell. We can go into a particular environment and our hair will pick up the smell. It'll pick it up and it'll transmit it so that not only can you smell it, but when you come into the presence of someone else, they can smell it. They can, oh, where have you been? Oh, you smell like frankincense. Oh, we smell like myrrh. You smell like lavender. Because why? Our hair picks that up. We are so advanced in who we are that they are still studying us to figure out who they can become. We are the it factor. We are the ones that bring about everything. And it is so awesome what everyone has actually said. And I just want to say that, again, we are the ones that create the attitude in the environment. And if we don't understand what the attitude is and project that attitude, then anyone else gets to interpret that. Not only do they get to interpret, they get to project it. Not only do they get to project it, but then they get to outline us, they get to shape us, they get to form us into something that we're not. So when we're looking in this hour and we're speaking and we have the opportunity to talk about things, we have to bring these things to the forefront. Because why? Because we are the next level and movement of what is going on. This is why I'm so excited to be sitting on this panel, because this is a groundbreaking panel. This is a panel that have decided that, hey, you know what? I'm going to make the conscious decision to say the things that really need to be said, regardless to if there's any blowback, regardless to if there's anyone that's in disagreement, guess what? I'm going to say it because it must be said and it has to be said. And with that, I want to say what Dr. Arcette said, and it's important, and I'm going to turn it loose. Dr. Arcette came up with a term called mutaphobia. Mutaphobia. Mutaphobia is from the word mutation, and what he says is it's having a keen awareness of and a healthy fear, not an inferior fear, but he says a healthy fear of the character of white people. And he goes on to say, a character of which for many whites, our story, he says, and his story has shown is of brutality, violence, and mental cruelty against people of color. Usually blacks, which shows whites' own phobia and fears in their process. He is saying that we show them their own phobias in the process of what's happening. And then he goes on to say, an example of a healthy fear is for Africans to fear and be concerned about their plight in a racist society to the degree of understanding that there is an immense need for self-reliance. In other words, that we have self-reliance. Our story, our historical studies, economic empowerment, and a new and much needed spiritual camaraderie in the African community. And let me reiterate that, because he says their plight in a racist society to the degree of understanding that there is an immense need for our own self-reliance, our historical studies, economic empowerment, and a need and a much needed spiritual camaraderie in African communities. He says all over the world, he said mutaphobics are intelligent beings who are concerned about their mental and physical security in a society where racists abound in every sector of government, state business, church, and other professional and non-professional sections or sectors. So what he is saying to us is that we got to get back to self-reliance. We got to get back to when we took care of ourselves, when we build our own communities and have a healthy fear, not a fear where it torments us, not a fear where it paralyzes us and we're unwilling to do what's necessary to do, but a fear that brings us to this place where we're saying, this is what we must do, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it now. So with my family here, with you all, my solidarity is with you all. And I want to say thank you. And I am here to further our plight so that we can become the best of who we are. Thank you.
Brother Amar?
Julius Nyerere, I'm making it brief. He was the president of Tanzania, one of their first president. He was placed in power in 1962. And Julius Nyerere, he was the president from 1964 to 1985. He established communities called Ujamaa communities, which is cooperative economics. He was there during a wonderful time because he took over the presidency. They became independent in 1961. But of course, there was still social, economical, and political issues that were going on in the country. They just had defeated the Britons, which is wonderful, of course. Also, the weapon that he used was socialism coupled with African traditions. He focused on 3 keys. His 3 keys was focusing on the ignorance, abolishing that, bringing knowledge, eradicating poverty, and also eliminating disease. He also started the Arusha Declaration. Arusha, that's spelled Arusha Declaration. It was established in 1967. Now, here's the significance of it. It was dated on February the 5th, and was established in Tanzania. And it outlined the principles of Ujamaa, which he called African socialism. The principles were to guide the economy of the newly independent nation, rooted in the concept of self-reliance. So, as you notice, what is woven into the leadership of both of the gentlemen that I have mentioned is they always taught us to depend upon us. It was always them establishing a system that was for us, by us, that was about us. Peace, love, and power. Thank you all on this evening.
Thank you, Brother Amar. And I'm going to go ahead and say a couple things myself. And I want to, after I say that, I want our brother, who was the inspiration for this particular broadcast, to say what he needs to say and close us out. And I thank you all, and I'm so proud of you all, because there's a lot of, not only the knowledge that was given here on the platform visually and through audio, but in our community. In our community, guess what, family? Stayed with us. Many of our community members stayed with us, even going beyond the hour that we typically go. If everybody else, you can watch Friends and they got a special hour, 2-hour version. You watch Grey's Anatomy, they got a special 2-hour version. This is worthy of having a special 2-hour version for us to communicate about our people. With that being said, I want to kind of chime in on what our sister Keisha was talking about. We're going on our 3rd annual Black Love Family Cruise. I want you all to understand what that means to us. Those who take it seriously. It's not just about entertainment, but we do try to pick fun places. It's about communing. It's about coming together. And Keisha can bear witness to what I'm about to say. You had people from all over the country who came together on a particular trip who have never met each other, and they forged authentic bonds, authentic relationships. And we're not pontificating and all that on the ship. We let our hair down, but we're learning more about each other's humanity. And we create that real brotherhood and sisterhood. We're eating together. We're traveling together to different sites and tour places. We're celebrating each other's birthdays. So I like to go. Just to further to chime in what Sister Keisha was talking about. I like to go on these particular trips. Yeah, I want to go to the beach, but that's my last stop. My first stop historically has been the tour or the particular island that we're in. So you learn about St. Thomas and who enslaved them and why they have their dialect. You learn about Barbados and why they have their dialect and who enslaved them. You learn about these different cultures of our people. And most of them, their gross national product is tourism and or their agriculture, whether it be fruit and vegetable or what they sell. So you learn about these things. You learn about Haiti, and this is why Haiti has been condemned to death, because they were the first and only to break away from French rule and defeat them. And they defeated them in a way that it was embarrassing. So now all these things that they put on Haiti, but these things come from travel and learning your history and learning how great people from our particular melanin skin, black people from African descent, are great in all these places. But you have to travel, you have to learn, Yeah, I can go shopping when I go there, but that's gonna be at the butt end. My first thing is to go here and learn more about where we come from, how our people been living in these particular countries, islands, and it's beautiful. And like Sister uh, Keisha said, Barbados, our people there pride themselves of being the most friendly people in the world, and it's demonstrated in how they carry themselves. Now, I'm going to close on a couple things. Sometimes we become blinded by sheer fun and entertainment while going into it. You know, I happen to love going to New Orleans. However, before I get into the entertainment for, process, I also like to go into the historical tours. And many times people don't understand that when you hear the French quarters, study that. Why do they call it the French quarters? New Orleans still have slave quarters present to modern times. What's the significance of the mask? See, the slave masters used to put the mask on so they can hide their shame and their guilt, so they can do what they want to do and go into the males' slaves in those quarters. And it was a game to them. The buck breaking, yes, our sisters have been raped, molested, but take it a step further from emasculate a man by going into his anus. And it's a game to you. And these wicked people are the ones who's given us laws about righteousness, uprightness, and humanity, and all that. Leave it like this. We must learn. We must celebrate the good that we have accomplished, but we must know it. And we can't, yeah, I'm firm believe what you're saying, Ra. They can't constantly keep bringing up the Holocaust, and we're not bringing up about slavery, but there's a science why they bring up the Holocaust that we need to adopt. They keep bringing up the Holocaust because they want their people to know never, ever, ever again. But when they erase slavery from our history, guess what? When we know nothing about it no more, it's doomed to repeat itself. So, thank you, Brother Ralph, for bringing this up. I'm so proud of the members of the Black Love Family Group because they are committed to loving our people in whatever facet they learn how to love, and they keep themselves humble to be able to learn in a different way if it's presented to them so that we can increase the love. Go here, Brother Ra.
Thank you for letting me close out the show. And I want to thank the people who lasted this long on this 2 hour special, man, because this is very important. Sometimes you don't have enough time in the day to get out the message. But like Brother Michael said, if you can spend 2 hours looking at the enemy, then you can spend 2 hours listening and loving your brother and your sisters. I want to close out the show with a question that Jessica Brown, and I'm gonna paraphrase it. She's asking how can we grow and learn from our oppression, knowing the abuse and the hurt and the racism in the society, and still embrace our culture and not be angry, pretty much. Sister, our past is not for us to be angry. It's us to learn from it and to advance from it and to let them know that it'll never happen again. We should never get angry about our past. Because like Brother Amar said, we have some things in our past that we're not proud of. So we're going to take the good and the bad. So it's not that we supposed to be mad. It's all about a learning experience. It's about evolving from where we were to where we need to be. So I just want to thank everybody who came on, who expressed themselves. I learned so much tonight, And that's the beautiful thing about us. We learn from each other. But if we keep our mouth closed with each other and have a negative, egotistical way of looking at things, because your ego can be used for good if you know how and be taught. I have learned that critical thinking is a process that has to be taught. It's nothing that you just up and know. So let's start and let's begin to think critical and not just jump out the window with our emotions, but actually think and get back to the essence of us. And that's great thinkers and leaders and innovators of humanity. So, Brother Michael, I thank you again for having this. Brother Clay, thank you for coming on. Brother Amar, Tahara, and Sister Keisha, man, we are all gods, and I just love it, man. So I can go to bed to rest night, know that we gave our people some of good positive energy, and hopefully that'll resonate in them for them to at least start the conversation with their children, if not with their children, with their friends or somebody that you don't know who look interesting to you. Maybe you would just pick up or inbox somebody in here and just start the conversation. But the main part is don't be ashamed if you don't know. Don't be ashamed if you don't know. If you don't know, it's okay. The main thing is to start knowing, because now you have responsibility. You're not ignorant anymore. You have the responsibility to learn it. So don't be ashamed. I didn't know it one time, but I took it upon myself to learn. And I learned tonight about hair. I learned tonight about maple syrup. I learned tonight about Keisha, putting people in the comments who Amar was talking about the presidency. I didn't know any of this. And I call myself somebody who know a little bit of something, but I didn't know any of this. And I'm not ashamed of it, because I grew tonight and I evolved. So you just witnessed somebody who evolved right in front of your eyes. So be proud of knowing and learning from your sister and brother. So this is Black Love Thursday signing out. Hey, man, let's do this thing again. I'll see y'all later.